I'm glad you took the time to be my mentor. I pulled all the data of all the applications that I applied to, which was 471, and found that the ones that you were recommending, like AngelList, for example, were the ones that I was spending the least amount of time on, but getting the highest rate of interviews. So that kind of information from you actually helped transition my job search process from a whole bunch of duds, just throwing out resumes and no one was responding, to actually getting interviews.
You guys see something new about the set? Maybe you like it? Drop a comment down below. That's my hedgehog collection up there. This week alone, I have not only had the milestone of releasing 100 videos for you guys, but I've crossed 2,000 subscribers in exactly 200 days. That is today. Since Father's Day 2020, I've been creating videos for you guys, and I just can't. I don't have the words. In this video, I want to share a story about Billy. He is one of my mentees who has gotten recently hired, and I want to share what he thinks about the data science mentorship process so far. If you guys can stay until the end, we have a lot of juicy secrets in the video, and most importantly, I owe you guys a 2,000 subscriber celebration. If you want to tell me what to do about the celebration, then write a comment down below, and please, for the sake of Meatball, drop a like down below as well. For now, but not for forever, I'll see you guys in the end. Peace. Everybody, this is Billy. He is one of my top performing mentees. Of course, I love all of them equally, but he is one of them that always is constantly learning, constantly reading, and has just gotten a job at Booz Allen Hamilton. Very recently, he starts next week. I'm impressed, Billy. How are you feeling?
Thanks. I feel awesome. It's like you're saying, celebratory. It feels nice that all the hard work has paid off.
Yes, Billy and I were in an 8-week mentorship formally through Sharpest Minds. We went through a lot of fun resources that we were able to access, all entirely for free, but also mock interviews on a regular basis. Billy, what part of our mentorship ended up being very helpful, or at the very least, what would you be able to take away from it if you had to do it all over again?
I think those are great questions. I feel like the most important part was genuinely your advice in a lot of these application processes was very direct, to the point, and actually useful. Like it was something I could directly apply that just worked. For instance, you were saying that applying using platforms like AngelList would be more effective use of my time. It didn't matter if I wrote the perfect cover letter to a company. Like if I wasn't getting the interview at that company, it wasn't worth my time. So I actually, I pulled all the data of all the applications that I applied to, which was 471, and found that the ones that you were recommending, like AngelList, for example, were the ones that I was spending the least amount of time on, but getting the highest rate of interviews. So that kind of information from you actually helped transition my job search process from a whole bunch of duds, just throwing out resumes and no one was responding, to actually getting interviews. And once I got to that point, it was easier to build momentum because I was talking to people, they were giving me feedback about what I was saying, and I was actually starting to learn things from interviews.
That's amazing. I mean, okay, I love that. I'm probably gonna have to ask you to write that in a post, and then I'll put it on the website. Turn dud leads into interviews themselves. And then when you got the interviews, what part of the mentorship actually helped ace those interviews and help you understand what to expect?
Oh my gosh, that's a really good question. I feel like the stars, you remember the stars, what was it, situation, task, action, and then result?
Yes, exactly.
Those actually, writing them down, it was all kind of a jumbled mess in my head, the experiences I could pull from to demonstrate to potential employers that I was a competent worker, or I had gained competence in the data science field, I guess, a little bit. I feel like writing those all down and rehearsing them even a couple of times was really useful in just having those, ready to pull from my head when I needed them during the interview process. And also kind of almost role-playing or acting out these kind of interview scenarios. Like I still remember the one where you were talking about how there was the one where the interviewer kind of wasn't that interested. I feel like that was really, a true or an accurate kind of representation of what the interviews almost went like. Not that they were all disinterested, but there were some that were not interested, but very I don't know the word, maybe gregarious, like very, charming and fun to talk to, but I wasn't
Right.
really getting anywhere. And there were some where, I could tell that they just weren't enthused or they weren't really interested. And those I could actually save time by cutting and say, hey, I appreciate your time. I don't know if I'd be a good fit for this role. For instance, there was one, and I actually ended up learning a lot from those interviews as well. There was one where, for some reason, I had just thrown an application for a like senior data scientist. I don't know if you remember this, like a senior
Yeah.
data scientist at a startup.
Yeah.
And they had given me an interview and I didn't know why, because I don't have any years of experience. Um, and he was talking about different things, like how would you approach this problem? And he was a really nice guy, but I could tell, like, with my level of experience, that was not the role. He wasn't looking for a candidate like me for that kind of role. And I ended up learning, like, oh, even if there was a certain point, I reached a certain point in that interview where I realized I'm not getting the job. So how can I turn this into kind of a learning opportunity? And I was, I transitioned from talking about myself a lot to talking about what a candidate in that kind of position would do, what kind of skills they were looking for, so that I could have something to, work off of or learn from, I
Right.
guess. That's kind of all a little bit jumbled, but
I think that was like a very jumbled. I disagree. I think that was a clear roadmap of exactly what people think that they should understand, and then what ultimately a mentor can help straighten up and expect the unexpected. How are you spending your last day of freedom? Your last few days?
the last few days of freedom, I've been doing a lot of reading.
Nice.
I'm trying to finish this one book in one day called The Tunnel by I think he's an Argentinian author. I haven't really read a lot of South American literature.
What's it about currently?
It's Dude, it's crazy. It's like 120 pages, so I figured I could finish it in a day. Spoiler alert: the first line is "I killed a woman," and you probably want to know why.
Hmm.
He's like, "Yeah, you probably know me because I'm a painter that killed a woman," and he talks about how, I don't know. You gotta. I would highly recommend. That's one. I just picked it up because it was on my grandma's bookshelf when I went to visit her,
Okay.
and I was like, I'd recently watched a video about a guy who was saying some books you just got to pick them up and read them and see what happens. And I'm very happy that I have so far.
I'm hooked. What was it called again? The
The
Painter?
Tunnel. The Tunnel. I think it's like a Penguin classic. Yeah, I can show you the cover right now.
Ooh.
Ernesto Sabato.
Ernesto Sabato. Got it.
Yes. I also got this for Christmas, which is a book written by an alumni of Sharpest Minds. Look at that.
Oh, brainy book.
Look at that. She even quotes as one of her testimonies, Eduardo.
Oh my God, that's funny.
How crazy is that?
I like your style. Like very consistent with your journey so far, and I'm assuming your lifelong adventure of learning.
Yes.
Like that's why I feel like kindred spirit towards you. That said, in the last few minutes before you become this brand new role, you're going to start having more than 0 years of experience. I mean, it's basically everything's going to change now. What is your future plans beyond this role, or perhaps in the next 5 years? Where do you hope to go?
That is really a great question. I've been kind of I've had like tunnel vision on just securing a job, so I haven't really thought about 5 years. That seems like a long time. I do know that after 2 years, things are going to change quite a bit. So I received an email from one of the companies that I interviewed really well at, and they said, "Hey, we think you're really brilliant. We've decided to move forward with a different candidate, but we want to stay connected." And that's kind of the gist of the responses I was getting. Was everyone was very impressed by me, but they thought, since I don't have the experience, I kind of don't have a proven track record. And I'm hoping that after 2 years of work experience, that's going to flip very quickly, where they're going to realize not only am I passionate about this field, but I also have the accolades to kind of back it up. So I'm thinking after 2 years, I will stay. I'm definitely going to stay with my company, of course, if they've shown that there's a lot of opportunity for growth. But If not, then I think that's around the time I'm going to be looking for new roles. And I'm hoping maybe 20 or 30 years down the line, I can start working on looking for contracts in specific areas that I want to research.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
What areas would those be?
Something like this, where I can just like something with the UN or something. I have this book, The Many Faces of Corruption. And I think one of the most powerful ways that data science could be used is as kind of a way of, kind of looking through the one-way mirror, where there's all these political elites and people at the way top who are looking down and surveying citizens, like the CCP is doing right now. And I feel like data science could be used to kind of flip that, where we can say, hey, our citizens are now looking back at you and holding you accountable for your actions. That's the kind of research I would want to do with data science.
That would be amazing. I feel like that is like, there's a reason why it's untapped, and because there's so much political dissent that turns into re-education, and then that cycle is just endless. If you live in China, and if you don't live in China, then you have like difficulty getting information. I think that research would behoove the entire world. So I commend you for wanting to move towards that direction. I'm actually in talks with a policy data science company. So I'll keep an eye on them at this time in like a year or 2 years from now. If they're like somewhere big, as they mentioned to me that they would be, I think it'll be a cool connection for you.
That would be, what is the name of that company?
They're called STAT, STATT. Yeah.
Is data science for policymakers.
Exactly. But yes, is there any question that I can answer for you?
I guess maybe because I've talked about 2 years, I've talked about 20 years, but I don't know really where that fits into the 5 years. What are your recommendations for maybe 5, 10 years down the line?
I'm pretty strange, because I think if you outlast your signing bonus, that is time to move on.
Okay.
There's no financial like string on you anymore, and by this I mean like the bulk of your bonus. For example, most tech companies have like a 3-year string on you. That your stocks will vest in 3 years, and therefore there's like sometimes it's like an aggregating incentive, where it's like the second year is even more stocks vesting than your first year. Those are trickier to navigate, but I feel like if you take the money that you would have gotten as a bonus as like guaranteed money, you would be pretty shocked if your pay went down by like 10, 15, 20%, right? Mm-hmm. But for your situation, are you getting a signing bonus?
Nope.
Okay. So that's an even trickier situation, right? Because I would just never stop looking. I would think a year's worth of experience at a company is always the benchmark where there's no longer a suspicion of like, okay, why did you have to leave the company? Was it because you were bad at the job or something like that, right? If you only had like 6 months in a company, that would be less ideal than a full year. But that's why you want to start looking around 9 months, right? So that you can have an 8 to 12 week cycle where you're still comfortably at that job, but you have the ability to leverage both offers against each other.
That's true. I would feel kind of bad though, because Booz Allen, they expressed that they wanted me to work there for like the long term.
Oh yeah, it's just going to be very costly for them if you don't do that. The loyalty that a company lends you, like my best friend roommate always says, is not the same one that they expect back, right? Because the one they expect back is way greater. There's like, oh yeah, you better like trust in us. Like we're giving you a job. We're putting a roof over your head. Like you have to like stay with us. We want you to stay. But if the economy ever went bad and their sales plummeted, they would turn around and fire you in a heartbeat. It's business for them. Why isn't it business for you? If you found a better offer with better hours or better pay, better company mission that you care about, then you shouldn't hesitate to turn around and say it's just business.
That's true. Yeah, that's a good way of putting it too.
At the moment, this is still just small peanuts. Right now, we're trying to build a foundation for you to get a like very solid foothold in the industry. Eventually, it would be best. I recommend all my mentees to think about building their own business. because then is the only way that you will stop being a cog in someone else's machine. Even if you're making $200,000 in the next 3 years, right? You're like top of the echelon of the data science world, right?
Right.
That's still the cap, right? What's the next step? Make $500,000 at a tech company somewhere? Sure. But you'll never pass this benchmark until you start being your own boss. And that's for like a 10-year, 20-year plan.
That makes sense.
The most important thing is, and I'll just keep telling you this every time we check in. It's not like I'm going anywhere, but if you're still at your company and you're trying to move upward, that is the biggest trap. If you're still at the company like 2 years down the line, like if you feel like, oh man, I just need to work really hard this year and then I'll get a promotion, you have officially been trapped.
Interesting.
But I think that's too much to bog yourself down on. I was celebrating my butt off and just like breathing this huge sigh of relief when I was in your position a couple years ago. So I would say main point, celebrate, feel really accomplished, because like I have to be kind of like in like a higher level of like, rah, everyone can do it, right? Because of the YouTube persona and also the mentorship persona. But like for you, like I really enjoyed our time together and I really like the person you are. So I think you can do no wrong. And I'm glad you're getting rewarded for the hard work you put in.
Thank you. I appreciate you saying that. I'm glad you took the time to be my mentor. I feel like I learned a lot more than I was expecting to.
Okay, I'm glad.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's not, trying to diss on you. It's not like I'm, trying to say I didn't expect to learn anything, but I was expecting to learn a lot and I ended up to learn a lot and a half. So
I'm glad you made it past this milestone. I'm glad I was able to be a small part of it, and I'm excited to see where you go from here. I have to jump off, although I do wish I can ask the 5,000 other questions about your experience, but I appreciated all of our time together, and to a lifelong relationship, good luck on your job next week.
Thank you. I appreciate that, Andrew.